Today, we're diving into something pretty wild, a critical security issue that's hiding in plain sight. We're talking about a massive, unmonitored gap in North American air defense, and it's right over Mexico.
So, let me ask you something. What if I told you there was a 2 million square mile backdoor into North American airspace? A gaping hole just there. Because that isn't a what if. It's real. Our sources lay it all out. We're talking about a gap so big, so poorly watched, that a hostile jet could scream up from southern Mexico and be over a city like Houston in just 43 minutes, undetected. Think about that, 43 minutes. So, how on earth is this even possible? Let's get into it.
Okay, to really get our heads around this, we have to start with the rules, this system, on paper. And this is where it gets kind of wild, because if you just looked at the official regulations, you'd think Mexico's airspace was a fortress.
So, Mexico follows all the standard international aviation rules. You know, the ICAO standards everyone uses. But here's the kicker. In a lot of cases, their rules are actually stricter than the international standard, stricter than what the US requires.
Just look at this. We're talking about Class G airspace. That's the least controlled kind of Wild West airspace out there. In the US, you can fly around in it, no flight plan, no radio needed. But in Mexico, nope. You have to file a flight plan and you have to be on the radio. They've basically made their uncontrolled airspace more controlled than everyone else's. So the question is, if the rules are this strict, what the heck is going on?
Well, it turns out the problem isn't the rules at all. It's something much deeper, a structural glitch in the system. And it all comes down to one little word: autonomous.
Now, I know what you're thinking. Autonomous, that's like AI, self-driving cars, right? Tech stuff. But in this world, the world of Mexican governance, it means something completely different. And honestly, it's way more concerning. It means an agency is set up to be unelected, unaccountable, and totally independent from any real democratic control.
And believe it or not, this whole thing isn't new. It kicked off back in the 90s. The idea was to create these autonomous agencies to protect them from political meddling. A noble idea, maybe. But the result? A bunch of super powerful, unelected bodies with zero accountability to, well, anyone. Yeah, these things are called autonomous constitutional bodies. That means they're literally written into the Constitution to exist outside the normal checks and balances of government. Think about that. So when something goes wrong, and things do go wrong, who do you hold responsible? That's the billion-dollar question, and it's just hanging out there, unanswered.
So, okay, we've got these strict rules on one hand, and these unaccountable agencies on the other. What happens when they collide in the real world? You get a huge, dangerous gap between what the rules say and what's actually happening up in the air. And the numbers? Wow. The numbers paint a picture of a system that's just breaking down. Just look at this. 137. That's the number of air traffic incidents reported in only the first 7 months of 2025. 137. That's a 31% jump from the year before. This isn't a blip. It's a total breakdown of enforcement.
And this decay, this collapse of enforcement, it has very real, very scary consequences. The source material is blunt about it. This gap has allowed cartels to basically run their own private air force. They're moving narcotics, weapons, huge amounts of cash, and they're doing it right under the noses of the authorities, who often don't see a thing.
So how are they getting away with it? It's a playbook, really. They fly super low in that Class G airspace that's supposed to be controlled. They don't bother with flight plans, obviously. They switch their transponders off, so they're basically ghosts. And they use this whole network of secret, illegal airstrips. It's a system that works perfectly because the official system has completely failed.
Okay, so we've got a broken system and cartels exploiting it. But what does this all mean for the bigger picture? For North American security? Let's connect the dots here, because this isn't just about rules and bureaucracy. It's about miles, and it's about minutes.
First, let's talk scale. We are not talking about a small blind spot. We're talking about more than 2 million square miles. That's the size of the area we're looking at. This huge, unmonitored zone has become, for all intents and purposes, a giant sanctuary. A perfect staging area for anyone who wants to cause trouble.
And what's sitting right underneath this wide-open sky? Just, some of the most critical infrastructure on the continent. We're talking about the power grids that connect the US and Mexico, natural gas pipelines, major shipping ports. Nearly $2 billion in trade crosses that border every single day, and all of it, every last bit, is sitting exposed.
So this brings us to the really terrifying question, doesn't it? If someone hostile, not just a cartel, but anyone, decided to use this massive staging area, how fast could they hit a major American city?
Well, here are the numbers, and they're not great. A hostile jet, something fast, say Mach 2, could lift off from southern Mexico and be over San Antonio in 35 minutes, Houston in 43 minutes, New Orleans in 47. You see what's happening here? The early warning time, the hours that NORAD and our entire air defense system is built on, it's just gone. It evaporates.
So you take the bureaucratic mess, you add the fact that nobody's enforcing the rules, and you factor in this terrifyingly short timeline, and you end up at a conclusion that is, well, it's deeply uncomfortable.
And the source material just nails it with this quote. The U.S. has effectively lost first strike capability on its southern border, the ability to detect and intercept a threat before it hits. And it wasn't lost in some epic dogfight. It wasn't a bang, it was a whimper. It just faded away because of bureaucratic decay.
And that's how it happened, step by step. It starts with those unaccountable autonomous agencies. That causes enforcement to collapse. That, in turn, creates this giant 2 million square mile sanctuary. And the final step, the early warning time that underpins our entire air defense strategy, is just wiped off the map.
Which brings us right back to where we started. The back door is open, the gap is real, and the timeline to respond isn't hours anymore, it's minutes. So the only real question left is, what happens when someone decides to test it? To see if anyone is actually watching the sky?